صلی اللہ محمد وعلی محمد. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. فانظر کیف کان عاقبۃ مکرہم انا دمرناهم وقومهم اجمعین. فتلک بیوت خاویہ بما ظلموا ان فی ذلک لآیات لقوم یعلمون. وأنجينا الذين آمنوا وكانوا يتقون. ولوطا إذ قال لقومه أتأتون الفاحشة وأنتم تبصرون أئنكم لتأتون الرجال شهوة من دون النساء بل أنتم قوم تجهلون. فما كان جواب قومه إلا أن قالوا أخرجوا آل لوط من قريتكم إنهم أناس يتطهرون. فأنجيناه وأهله إلا امرأته قدرناها من الغابرين. وأمطرنا عليهم مطرا فساء مطر المنذرين. قل الحمد لله وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى الله خير أما يشركون. أمن خلق السماوات والأرض وأنزل لكم من السماء ماء فأنبتنا به حدائق ذات بهجة ما كان لكم أن تنبتوا شجرها أإله مع الله بل هم قوم يعدلون. أمن جعل الأرض قرارا وجعل خلالها أنهارا وجعل لها رواسي وجعل بين البحرين حاجزا إله مع الله بل أكثرهم لا يعلمون. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض أإله مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. أمن يهديكم في ظلمات البر والبحر ومن يرسل الرياح بشرا بين يدي رحمة إله مع الله تعالى الله عما يشركون. أمن يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده ومن يرزقكم من السماء والأرض إله مع الله قل هاتوا برهانكم إن كنتم صادقين. قل لا يعلم من في السماوات والأرض الغيب إلا الله وما يشعرون أيان يبعثون. بل ادارك علمهم في الآخرة بل هم في شك منها بل هم منها عمون. وقال الذين كفروا أإذا كنا ترابا وآباؤنا أئنا لمخرجون. لقد وعدنا هذا نحن وآباؤنا من قبل إن هذا إلا أساطير الأولين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى
بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. Inshallah we'll read a short salam and then we'll have a speech by Maulana. Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. آج کوفے میں شبیر و شابر رو رہے ہیں. آج کوفے میں شبیر و شابر رو رہے ہیں. باپ کو اپنے زہرا کے دل بر رو رہے ہیں، بحر و بر میں ہے غل آج برپا یا علی کا، بحر و بر میں ہے غل آج برپا و علی کا، آج جبریل عرش بری پر رو رہے ہیں، آج کوفے میں شبیر و شبر رو رہے ہیں، آج شہزادیاں ہیں پریشان شاہ ذیشان، آج شہزادیاں ہیں پریشان شاہ ذیشان، اٹھ کے تسکین دو بہرے داور رو رہے ہیں، آج کوفے میں شبیر و شبر رو رہے ہیں، ہائے یتیموں کے بیووں کے والی شاہ عالی، ہائے یتیموں کے بیووں کے والی شاہ عالی، اب نہ وارث رہا کوئی سر پر رو رہے ہیں، آج کوفے میں شبیر و شبر رو رہے ہیں، خاک اڑاتے ہیں سر پر نواسے مصطفیٰ کے، خاک اڑاتے ہیں سر پر نواسے مصطفیٰ کے، گھر سے جاتا ہے تابوت حیدر رو رہے ہیں، آج کوفے میں شبیر و شبر رو رہے ہیں، اے حمایت عزادار حیدر پیٹ کر سر، اے حمایت عزادار حیدر پیٹ کر سر، آج اس طرح نوحے کو سن کر رو رہے ہیں، آج کوفے میں شبیر و شبر رو رہے ہیں، باپ کو اپنے زہرا کے دل بر رو رہے ہیں، بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔ Now requesting Shaykh Mahdi Rastani to please come to the member and address the Mu'mineen. Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salawat.
Recite salawat, please. Salli ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا والشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين أما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله عنده علم الساعة وينزل الغيث ويعلم ما في الأرحام وما تدري نفس ماذا تكسب غدا وما تدري نفس بأي أرض تموت إن الله عليم خبير صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه. For the love of our beloved Prophet and his beloved progeny, please recite a second loud salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه. For the hastening and the return of our beloved 12th Imam, a third final loud salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه. Inshallah, tonight we will continue with the topic that we had started discussing last night, this topic that is titled The Tales of Dhulfaqar, in which we discussed the battles of Ali ibn Abi Talib to see who was the man behind the sword of Dhulfaqar, who was this one who carried Dhulfaqar in all of these ups and downs, all of these battles that he went through, from the time of the Prophet all the way until that time where the Prophet was no longer around, and now the reins were in the hands of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and Ali now had to lead the Muslim Ummah. We started the story from the very beginning where the Prophet told Ali ibn Abi Talib that these days were going to come. He told him, Ali, you are the one who will fight for the ta'wil of my religion, even though you also fought with me for the tanzil of my religion. You fought to establish the religion fundamentally. You will also fight to maintain the correct interpretation of the religion as well. And this is where we went through that hadith that Abu Dhar has narrated for us, where the Prophet turned towards Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said, وَلَكِنَّهُ خَاصِفٌ النَّعْلِ. He's the one who's fixing my sandals. Yes? And Ali speaks of the difficulties of these battles in Nahj al-Balagha quite often. In particular, he touched on this topic. He said, during the time of the Prophet, we used to fight even with our own relatives at times, but this was easier to go through because the people we were dealing with on the other side, they were kuffar, they were mushrikeen. If you said la ilaha illallah to them, they didn't believe in it. And yet today, in the words of Ali, we are fighting with those who on the other side say la ilaha illallah. They say Muhammadan Rasulullah. They also believe in these things apparently as well. And so you find in the seerah of Ali, he had three major battles, all three of them with who? With people who on the other side were saying Shahadatain as well. Supposedly they also believed in the same God. They also believed supposedly in the same Prophet of Allah as well. So Ali was telling him from the very beginning that this was going to be a very difficult task. Nonetheless, the first obstacle that you find in front of Ali ibn Abi Talib, when he now gains this power and authority of Khilafah, as he mentions in Khutbah Shiqshaqiyya, is the issue of the Battle of Jamal. And he mentions in that khutbah, he says the reason why these guys started these riots, it wasn't because of Uthman, it wasn't because of taking revenge for him. No, he says, حَلِيَتِ الدُّنْيَا فِي أَعْيُنِهِمْ. The dunya started to look too good in their eyes. وَرَاقَهُمْ زِبْرِجُهَا. And the shininess of this world started to trick them. And therefore they came up with this excuse, and this is how they started this whole battle. This is where the battle began. Talha and Zubayr came to Ali ibn Abi Talib. They said, listen, you are Khalifa now. We have this long reputation in Islam. We have this long relationship with you. Now's the time for you to hand over the authority, the governance of maybe a city, maybe two, maybe three or four to us. We've been here for so long. At the end of the day, who's going to reward us after this long time? Ali, of course, rejected them. He said, no, I would rather have the ashab of the Prophet right here in Medina with me. And this was a strategic response from him because he knew these guys were up to no good at this point. Nonetheless, Talha and Zubayr, they left from there. They went to Mecca. When they entered into Mecca, they found the third, essentially, portion of this group, and that was the wife of the Prophet, Aisha, Ummul Mu'mineen. And of course, I want to mention this. I mentioned this last night. I'll mention this tonight as well. That whatever we discuss is what the utmost respect to all schools of thought within Islam. This is simply the Shia narrative of what took place at that time. Otherwise, we respect all schools of thought within Islam. They found Aisha is there in Mecca, and she has set up a tent, and she is also giving out and using the same slogans that these guys are using. Ya la tharati Uthman. We have to come and take the revenge of the blood of Uthman. Otherwise, this Khilafah of Ali, we will not be able to be okay with this. This is where they started to move to Basra, because they knew that they had to get their hands on a stronghold. If they didn't have the stronghold, then Ali would get to them. And they started to move quickly. And this is where they bought and purchased this camel on the way. They came to Basra. There was a coup at night. They slaughtered the guards at night. They entered into Basra. And Talha and Zubayr came across the Baytul Mal of Basra. They looked upon it. They said, هَذَا مَا وَعَدُكُمُ اللَّهِ. This is what Allah promises you when you are on the right path. And we discussed what Ali ibn Abi Talib did and said when he came closer to Basra, and that conversation that history narrates for us that he had with Ibn Abbas about his sandal and the dunya, and how he said the dunya in his eyes is less valuable than this torn away and worn out sandal of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is where we ended our talk last night. Tonight, inshallah, we'll continue with the discussion, and we will do so by posing the following questions. Number one, when Ali ibn Abi Talib finally made his way to the doors or the gates of Basra, how many companions did he send to the city of Kufa to get help for his army? And who was there in the city of Kufa who was creating problems for Imam Ali to be able to gather more troops for himself? Number two, when he came to Basra and before he was going to begin the war, how many times did Ali send companions of the Prophet to go and speak to Talha and Zubayr and see if he can bring them back to the right path before commanding his troops to prepare for war? Number three, when he told Ibn Abbas, go and speak to Zubayr, what did Ali ibn Abi Talib tell Ibn Abbas to say to this relative of his, this cousin of his, Zubayr? Number four, when you come closer to the end of this battle, who was the person on the side of the Battle of Jamal, on the other side, who was managing the whole war? And number five, what did Ali ibn Abi Talib say at the very end of this battle when he saw the sword of Zubayr? What did he say about the sword of Zubayr that had worked so hard for the Prophet, but at the end of the day ended up in the situation that it ended up in? Tonight, inshallah, we'll delve into these questions with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Ali ibn Abi Talib hears about this coup. He hears about the idea that they have now entered into the city of Basra. At this point, he hears this news. He is very saddened by this news. His governor, whose name is Uthman bin Hunayf, by mistake last night I said Hunayf, his name is Uthman bin Hunayf, he was kicked out of the city of Basra. At this point, Ali ibn Abi Talib now has to put together a bigger army to go up against these individuals. And therefore, he sends the companions of the Prophet one by one to go to Kufa, not too far away from Basra, to gather some supporters so that he can go up against these rioters in the city of Basra. Initially, he sends his son, Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, one of the children of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr goes into the city of Kufa. He delivers a khutbah. He says, people, the cousin of the Prophet, your Khalifa, your Imam, he has called upon you. You have to answer his call. There is one person in the city of Kufa who creates problems constantly. He's a person who created problems here. He will create problems 2 nights from now as well. Of course, 1400 years ago, but for us it'll be 2 nights from now. And that was Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Yes? Abu Musa is sitting, he's the governor of Kufa from the previous caliph, but Ali ibn Abi Talib had let him stay there. He comes, he says, no, this is fitna. We have to stay out of it. Yes, Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Khalifa, yes, but we have to stay out of it. We can't send our troops. We can't be a part of this. Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr returns with no results. This time Ali sends Malika Ashtar, he sends Ibn Abbas. These were famous companions of the Prophet. They go, they also come back. No results, nothing. Abu Musa again says, we should stay out of this. It's better for us to stay out of this. Of course, his governance had the stamp of Ali ibn Abi Talib on it. That's why he was the governor. He says, no, we have to stay out of this. Then Ali ibn Abi Talib sends, his final resort, yes? He says, Hassan, my son Hassan now has to go and speak in Kufa. He sends Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, and with him, Ammar bin Yasir, famous companions. They go, this time they explain things. Ammar bin Yasir, who we talk more about in the Battle of Siffin, he clarifies things for people. Listen, this is the cousin of the Prophet. He is the Khalifa. He is now calling for your help. At this point, people start to join this army to a certain degree. And a good number of people gather and they start to move towards where the Imam has settled outside of the gates of Basra. Some have said 6,000, some have said 8,000, 12,000. Different numbers are mentioned in history. But all we know, very well into the thousands at least. Everything is set now. The foundation is set. Yes? They have entered into the city. They have killed the guards. Everything is ready now for Ali ibn Abi Talib to just tell his army to, listen, attack the city. Doesn't matter how many people you kill as long as you put an end to this whole situation. Enough is enough. Everyone expects Ali to just start this war, no? Everyone says they've been rioting, they've been killing people. Ya Ali, get rid of them, huh? This is one of the biggest lessons of the Battle of Jamal that applies to you and I today. Because in this moment, when everyone is expecting for Ali to rush things, you find Ali is the most patient. Allah. He is so patient in these moments. When everyone else says, oh, Ali, you have to attack. You have to put an end to this. Push forward. You see, Ali has this restraint and he has this patience and he has this wisdom. You can never force the hand of Ali, You can never put him in a situation where his emotions get the best of him. Never. You have to understand now, he's outside of the city of Basra. Muawiyah, who he was initially going to attack, is still there, yes? Then he is outside of his own stronghold, which was Medina. He's at a disadvantage at this point, yes? Everyone is saying, Ya Ali, put an end to this. Enough is enough. But you find the patience of Ali. Why? He says, well, let me speak to them. Maybe they can come back to the right path, yes? Let me send Fulani, let me send Fulani, let me send Fulani. This is the patience of Ali. This is why Ali is so special, because it wasn't just the warrior, yes? We know about the warrior who is Ali. We've never heard about this wise man, this man of strategy, this man of patience, of restraint, who is Ali ibn Abi Talib. As much as they tell him, Ya Ali, go for it. No. This is, at the end of the day, Sahaba of the Prophet here, they have at least a minimal level of respect. I have to at least get my message across to them. So what does he do? He writes letters to Talha, writes letters to Zubayr, writes letters to Aisha, gives it to one companion of the Prophet, Sa'sa'a ibn Suhan. He says, Sa'sa'a, you go and speak to them and give them my letter. He goes, gives the letters, no result. Each one of them says one thing. One says, Ali is not even supposed to be Khalifa. I should be Khalifa instead of him. I'm more worthy of this position than him. The other one comes and says, listen, Ali, he wants to change things now because he's at a disadvantage. Otherwise, he wouldn't be asking for, speaking to us in this way. Every one of them has their own excuse, comes back. Okay? Ya Ali, it's time to attack now. If you and I were there, we say, Ya Ali, it's time to attack now. I mean, they said no. Then he says, no, I have to send another companion. This patience, huh? Then he said, you know what? Now we're going to send Ibn Abbas. I mean, surely you respect Ibn Abbas, famous companion of the Prophet. He said, we're going to send Ibn Abbas now. But Ibn Abbas, look at this one line that Ali says, I swear there is so much ghurba and loneliness in this one line of Ali. He said, Ibn Abbas, when you go and you speak to them, Aisha and Talha, there's not much hope there. But Zubayr, yeah, he's kind of on the fence now. But go and speak to him and just tell him that your cousin says this one line. What is this one line? It's so beautiful. He said, go and speak to him and tell Zubayr that Ali says, عرفتني بالحجاز وأنكرتني بالعراق. You knew who I was in Medina. Now you came to Iraq, you forgot about me all of a sudden, huh? You don't know who I am anymore? You were the one who came and gave bay'ah. And in history you read Talha and Zubair were amongst the first who came and gave bay'ah. Says, you knew me when I was in Medina. When I came to Iraq, all of a sudden you said, I don't know who this guy is. He said, فَمَا عَدَى مِمَّا بَدَى. Tell him, Zubair, what happened to you? Everything was fine. Then all of a sudden, in a couple moments, as if you went from one city to another city, you became a stranger all of a sudden. Ibn Abbas comes, speak to Talha, Zubair, Aisha, no help. Ali, now's the time to attack? No, still no. Sends another companion. He comes and speaks again. These guys are not coming back to the right path. Then you say, Ali, now for sure, that's it. How many are you going to send now? Your army is waiting outside of Basra. Then Ali, you know what he does? He says, let me speak to them myself. Maybe I can bring them back to the right path. You and I, if someone says something, after the second time, we're done with the guy. Said this guy, forget about him. Ali ibn Abi Talib is showing so much restraint, so much patience. This time he says, let me go and speak to them. In the battlefield, now armies are preparing at this point. He says, let me go and speak to them. What happens now? He comes, speaks to Talha, no benefit. Speaks to Zubair. And the narration says that their horses were so close, almost the horses were touching one another. You've seen sometimes in movies, yes? When the two commanders come into the middle of the battlefield, they speak to one another. Ali comes and speaks to Zubair and says, why are you doing this? He said, no, Ya Ali, it is what it is. He said, you remember that time we were with the Prophet turned to you and said, Zubair, that day will come where you will fight Ali ibn Abi Talib, but you will be in the wrong. And Zubair knew he was wrong from before, but this, now he was hesitant already. This ringed a bell for him. He became even more hesitant. He said, Ya Ali, you're right. I shouldn't be fighting against you. Went back to his camp. News starts to go around that Zubair has changed his mind. Oh, this is a big deal now, yes? Zubair is changing his mind. People are getting very nervous, yes, very anxious at this time. Who comes into the picture in this moment? Number 4 from yesterday. If you remember who number 4 is, his son Abdullah ibn Zubair comes. His son comes, he says, Father, you led this whole army from Mecca to Basra, now you're going to leave things? You can't leave things now. Zubair said, I have sworn by Allah, I am not going to fight Ali ibn Abi Talib today. I've sworn. You've done qasam, right? There's no more going back. You know what Abdullah ibn Zubair said? This is why your inner circle, the people you have around you, is so critical. Abdullah ibn Zubair said, my father, no worries. You've done qasam. Just give the kafara, break your qasam. Just pay the kafara. Sometimes people come say, they say, Shaykh, do I have to fast? I say, yes, you have to fast. What if I just pay the kafara? Would that work? Shaykh, can I do this? No, it's haram, there's kafara. What if I just pay the kafara? It's not how it works. He said, no worries. You've done qasam, no worries. You just pay the kafara. What did Zubair do? His son had so much influence over him. And that's why it's so important for you and I to look at those that you have around yourself. Because every single one of us, in the most difficult moments in life, there will come times where you see yourself between heaven and hell. And it all depends on who you've gathered around yourself in that moment. Will that person speak truth to you, or will that person just say something to get things done and move on? Which one is it going to be? Abdullah bin Zubair makes things go away in this way. Zubair comes back. Then you say, Ya Ali, we're done. Our patience is done, yes? We're done. We're almost done. We want to get into the battle. Many of you are like, Shaykh, when do we get to the battle? Yes? We're going to get to the battle, but this is the patience of Ali, though. What can I do? He sits there, he says, okay, we can't attack yet. Why? We are going to give them 3 more days to wait and think. Maybe after these 3 days. 3 days pass by. And you and I sit there and say, Ya Ali, this is too much patience now, Ya Ali. This is too much. But this is because you and I don't understand the patience of Ali. Because Ali is the one, he knows when to push forward, when to hold back. Ali is the one who's practiced patience his whole life. You know when Ali practiced the most patience? Don't look at this today. This is 24 years after the issue of Khilafat came up. 24 years Ali has been waiting. He has been patient. When they came, what happened to Fatima al-Zahra? He has been so patient. That's why in his khutbah he says, Sabartu wa fil ayni qadha wa fil halqi shaja. You know what this means? He says, I was patient while there was a thorn in my eye. You've seen sometimes a hair gets into your eye, the pain that it has, that you're trying to get it out. He says, I was patient while there was a thorn in my eye, وَفِي الْحَلْقِ الشَّجَى, as if there was a bone in my throat. He's been practicing this patience for years. This is why Abu Dhar narrates, he says, one day I was with the Prophet. We were walking with the Prophet. The Prophet, he did sajda, and then he got up and he spoke to us. And he said, you know, this man who's going to come, if you want to see the knowledge of Adam, look at this person. If you want to see the understanding of Nuh, look at this person. If you want to see that special relationship that Ibraheem had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look at this person. He says, everyone started to look around. Then they saw, oh, Ali ibn Abi Talib came. And then the Prophet said, Ya Ali. And then the Prophet said this. He said, and if you want to see the patience of Ayyub, look at Hadal Jari. Look at this one who is coming towards you. This is the patience of Ali. Ya Ali, we're tired. They attack them, get it done with. This is not how Ali does things, yes? You can never force the hand of Ali through emotion. So that's not how he makes decisions. Finally, the time comes. The day of the Battle of Jamal comes, yes? On that day, again, Ali ibn Abi Talib says, Ibn Abbas, go, take the Quran with you, hold the Quran, say the Quran says you're on the wrong path. Maybe they'll listen. No, he sends a young man. This young man comes to get to them in front of the army with a Quran. At this point, there are arrows that are shot at this young man that kills this young man. This is where things change fundamentally. Up until now, we were talking about Ali, the patient one, Ali, the wise one. Ali, the one who shows restraint. Ali, the one who gives you chance after chance. When this happened, this young man was killed, it's almost Ali turned on another switch. Now you see the warrior who is Ali, You see the one who's going to enter into the battlefield. The moment this young man was killed, and now the war has technically begun formally, then they say Ali started to prepare his army. He had different companions, different parts. Ammar bin Yasir, Malik Ashtar on the left side, himself there standing as well. At this point, he wore the armor of the Prophet. And he started to ride on the horse of the Prophet. These are not good signs if you're on the other side, by the way. These are not the signs you want to see before a battle. You want to see other things, not Ali ibn Abi Talib preparing. These moments were so critical, and you can tell the atmosphere of this whole army is changing to a point. The companion of Ali, he started to recite a poem. He said, this flag that we're holding today, هذا اللواء الذي كنا نحف به مع النبي والجبريل لنا مددا. He said, this flag that Ali is carrying today is the same flag that the Prophet had. We used to gather around him, and Jibreel was in our army as well. We are now going to the battlefield, aren't we? Ali prepares. On the other side, who comes out? The camel comes out. Al-Mu'mineen comes out. On this side, Ali has the flag. On the other side, who is the flag? The camel is the flag. There is no flag on the other side. If you can get to the camel, everything is done. You know, in wars, if you can get to the person who's holding the flag, what happens? The whole army falls apart. At this point, they say on the other side, there is no flag. It's just one camel. Now Ali is preparing his warriors. He took this flag because Ali has fought in many battles, but now he is the commander. It's a difference when you fight yourself and when you are commanding the battle. Yes, you have to encourage others now to enter. He took the flag, he gave it to his son, Muhammad bin Hanafiya. He said, Muhammad bin Hanafiya, why don't you take this flag? You are to attack. And then Ali gave this talk to Muhammad bin Hanafiya. It's narrated in Nahjul Balagha. I swear it gives you the chills 1400 years later. He said, Muhammad, my son, when you are going to attack, today you have to have the utmost determination. Tazulul jibal wala tazul. He said, my son, today the mountains, they will move, but you cannot move. You have to be strong today. And he said, my son, when you go to the battlefield, adha ala najidik, bite down on your teeth. Yes, this is when you are preparing for war, because this is going to be a difficult one, my son. Adha ala najidik, a'irillaha jumjumatak, loan your skull to Allah. Prepare yourself. You might go in there, not come back now. This is what's going to happen now. And then he said, when you look at this army, don't look at this soldier, that soldier, this one. Irmi bi basaraka aqsal qawm. Look at the very end of the army. That's where you're headed. That's where you want to get yourself to. That camel, you want to go there. According to one narration, Ali said, Muhammad, when you enter, your goal is to take this flag and stab it into the eye of the camel. That's what I want you to do. Then Muhammad bin Hanafiya, he prepares. Then the command comes to attack. He starts to attack the archers on the other side. They stop them from movement towards the army on the other side. Then Ali sees his son can't take on this task, can't take on this attack himself. Yes? There's a difference between Muhammad bin Hanafiya and the Abbases of the world. Yes, Abbas is one thing, Muhammad bin Hanafiya is a different thing. He says Muhammad bin Hanafiya is a little hesitant. What did Ali do? He got on the horse of the Prophet. He grabbed the flag from the hands of Muhammad bin Hanafiya. On the right hand, the sword. Which sword? The Dhulfaqar, of course. In the left hand, the flag of his army. He attacked himself to this army. And he's made his way, and now companions have come with him. They attack, they come back. Then they attack again, and he comes back. He keeps going back and forth. Narrations say at one point he came back. He had fought so much in this battlefield that now Dhulfaqar had been bent a little bit. Do you know how much you have to fight for your sword to bend in the battlefield? You know who else was fighting so much that his sword was about to bend? On the 10th of Muharram, Ali al-Akbar, when he went to the battlefield, this was part of the poems he recited. He said, أَضْرِبُكُمْ بِالسَّيْفِ حَتَّى يَنْثَنِي. I will fight with my sword so much with you that my sword at one point will bend. This is the grandson of that one, yes? He came back. Then this is the part where Ali ibn Abi Talib then turns to Malik Yashar. Malik, attack! Malik was on the left side. He starts to attack. This is where this back and forth between the army continues and continues. And in history you read that if you were in the midst of that battle, there were heads that were flying, there were bodies on the ground. Forgive me, there was blood all over the place. Everything was happening in the midst of this battle. At one point, Ali ibn Abi Talib looks upon this battlefield. He turns to his companions. He says, the only way we will win this battle and put an end to it is if you take down the camel. Because everyone is revolving around what? The camel. We said the battle of the camel, literally revolving around the camel. Everyone now starts to attack the camel. The archers start to shoot their arrows at this camel, but this camel has its own armor. You can't get to it from far away. At one point, one of the companions of the Imam, Malik Ashtar, he gets very close. He's not able to do it. In these critical moments in history, you read how Amir al-Mu'mineen was managing the battlefield, how Aisha was managing the battlefield. And I will say this part you have to give her credit, the way she managed the battlefield. This is extraordinary from a historical perspective, that this woman entered into the battlefield. She was in the battlefield herself, and she managed the battlefield too. And she was so important for this whole army. Everyone would gather around the camel of Aisha. And they say on that day, 70 people came, took the reins of this camel. 70 people died taking the reins of the camel of Aisha. And she knew exactly what to say to each group to encourage them. Amongst the things that is narrated that she said on that day, to encourage people, she used to say, Ya Baniya, my children, be patient. I guarantee for you heaven if you're fighting in this battle. These are scary things. Scary things. This is on one side. On the other side, Ali ibn Abi Talib is encouraging his warriors to move ahead. This back and forth continues. They say, Aisha at one point, this is the influence, how you use it. Aisha at one point, she picked up some of the dirt of that area. She threw it in the face of the army on the other side, symbolically. She said, Shahatil wujuh, may these faces perish. She was trying to do what the Prophet did in the Battle of Badr. In the Battle of Badr, the Prophet took some dirt before the battle began. He threw it in the faces of the kuffar. He said, Shahatil wujuh, may these faces perish. She was trying to act like who? Act like the Prophet. She said, وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. Aisha, when you threw this verses of the Quran revealed about the Prophet, yes, but she was saying this is also applies to this situation as well. That Aisha, when you threw this, it wasn't you that threw it, it was Allah that threw it. You threw it on behalf of God. This is the path of God. And Amir al-Mu'mineen responded and he said, وَمَا رَمَيْتِ إِذْ رَمَيْتِ وَلَكِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ رَمَى. He said, no, it wasn't God, it was shaitan. This is all in the midst of the battle, yes? Until that point comes where one companion of Ali ibn Abi Talib makes his way and he finally hamstrung this camel. And in this moment, it's almost as if the battlefield goes quiet, because this was that critical moment. This camel gives out this cry. Everybody in the army hears it. The camel falls, and with that, the cradle in which Aisha is in also falls as well. This automatically has the whole army now fall apart. But here's the beauty of who Ali is. Before this battle, he was the most patient. In the battle, he was the most ferocious of warriors that you will ever come across. The battle is again done now. All of a sudden, the patience of Ali, the justice of Ali, the compassion of Ali starts again. These were people that were trying to kill him a couple moments ago. What happened? The moment this camel fell, he told his warriors, you all have to stop. The camel fell. This army is falling apart. Many ran away. He says, you have to stop. Wife of the Prophet is in that cradle, in that carriage. You can't attack it. What did he do? Look at the compassion of Ali. Yes, these are all lessons for us that we learn from the compassion, the patience of Ali. He said, Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, O sister of Aisha, brother of Aisha, nobody is going to go speak to Aisha. You are going to go speak to Aisha. Why? She's a woman. She has to have her mahram with her, yes? You are going to go and speak to Aisha. Muhammad goes, speaks to Aisha. They have this conversation. At the end of it, Aisha says, listen, tell Ali that I have this one wound that I have to take care of, because Ali said, ask her if she has been wounded in the battle. He said, I have this one wound, and go and tell Ali to take care of me. I'm done. Tell him to take care of all my affairs. But you are fighting against Ali. She knows who Ali is. She knows the moment this battle comes to the end, Ali is the most just and the most compassionate. Then Ali came. Look at the loneliness of Ali. He came and he stopped by this carriage. He took his spear and he just touched the carriage a little bit to get the attention of Aisha. He said, is this what the Prophet taught you to do, all of this? This whole battle? And then you know what Aisha said? Aisha said, Ya Ali, now that you have become victorious, now be kind and compassionate and forgiving. Why? Because she knows who Ali is. But you see how Ali turns this switch on and off, almost as if this is because Ali knows when he's supposed to show emotion, when he's supposed to hold back. This is the wife of the Prophet. This battle is now settling down. Everything is settling down. They are bringing the bodies of those who've been killed. But of course, the question that remains is Talha, Zubair, what happened to these guys? I mean, these guys were the ones who started all of it. Yes, Aisha is here, and we will talk about Aisha momentarily. But Talha, Zubair, what happened to them? At this point, Ali ibn Abi Talib starts to walk through those individuals whose bodies are on the ground. And he comes across the body of Talha. Talha got killed by one of his own people. And narration says in those moments, he had an arrow shot into him. And he moved away from the battlefield and he said, there is no blood that was wasted like my blood. Why? Because he had an opportunity to give his blood for so many noble causes. He ended up giving his blood for what? He tried to get the dunya in return, and even that, he wasn't able to get. He said, my blood was the most wasted blood ever. I didn't get anything in return of it. This was Talha. When Ali ibn Abi Talib came across the body of Talha, he said, Talha, you had such a strong reputation with the prophets. But somewhere along the way, shaitan got the best of you. This is why we recited that verse at the beginning. وَمَا تَدْرِي نَفْسٌ مَاذَا تَكْسِبُ غَدًا. Nobody knows what they're going to end up doing tomorrow. This is the scary part about the Battle of Jamal. Yes, today I say, Ya Allah, Alhamdulillah, I'm on the right path. But God knows who I'm going to be tomorrow, yes? It's scary. It's scary. Then Zubayr, of course, he ran away from the battlefield. And later on, someone killed him. And Ali ibn Abi Talib was not happy with this, because when you run away from the battlefield, there's no more fighting. Yes, you leave that person. That person is now a captive. You don't have the right to kill that person anymore. But when they killed Zubayr, and Ali ibn Abi Talib saw Zubayr, his body, he turned to the body of Zubayr. He said, Zubayr, you were on our side until the son of yours showed up. You were so easily influenced by those around you, your son showed up and created problems for you, and shaitan was able to trick you. Then he saw the sword of Zubayr. He saw the sword of Zubayr. And he said this one line. It is so scary when you hear this. That you can go from this status, start out your life here, and then end up where? At the bottom of hellfire. He saw the sword of Zubayr. He said, طالما جل الكرب عن وجه رسول الله. Do you know what this one line means? He said, this sword used to remove sadness from the face of the prophets. This was the sword the prophet used to rely on. Where did it end up at the end of the day? This is that sword that the prophet, when he was upset, there was something that had made him sad. It used to remove the sadness and the sorrow from the face of the prophet. And this is at the end of the day where all of this ended up finishing at. This is scary. This is very scary. They bring together all of these bodies. And Ali ibn Abi Talib now enters into Basra. He takes that same Baytul Mal. He divides it amongst the people, the same Baytul Mal that the Talhas and Zubayrs looked at and recited verses of the Quran for. He took that same Baytul Mal and he started to divide it amongst people until it was empty. Then the final step of this whole trip comes. Someone approaches Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ya Ali, I wish my brother was here. My brother wanted to fight in this battle with you. I wish he was there with us today. And Ali said something that relates to you and I right now. Ali said, yes, your brother, he really wanted to be here, no? He said, yes, Ya Ali, he really wanted to be here with us today. He said, I can tell you that he was there with us today. He said, Ya Ali, he didn't come with us. He wasn't able to come with us. What do you mean he came with us? He said, لَقَدْ شَهِدَنَا. He definitely was here with us today. Why? Because he had the genuine intention to be here with us today. And then the Imam continued. He said, not only that, there are those who are still in the loins of their fathers and in the wombs of their mothers who were here with us today as well. There are those from the future generations who will come. They will follow me. They will say, I wish I was there. And they're genuine in that claim. They were also here with us today as well. This fight between evil and good continues until today. When Ali tells Muhammad bin Hanafiya, my son, this is how firm you're supposed to be, that means he's telling you and I, this is how firm I need you to be when you come across haram. Are you going to come across haram? It's haram, it's no problem. Are you going to be like Zubayr? Or are you going to sit there and say, no, no, no. Tazul al-jibal wala tazul. If the mountains move, I'm not going to end up doing this. This is the lesson of the life of Ali. Everything comes to an end. There's one last person that Ali has to deal with, yes? One last situation Ali has to settle. Who is that? The wife of the Prophet is still in Basra. She is not supposed to be in Basra. She's supposed to be at home. Where's her hometown? It's in Medina. It's not supposed to be here. Ali ibn Abi Talib prepares everyone for Aisha to now leave. And history says he allowed for people to see her off. This is a person who started a battle, whose casualties, history says 14,000, 15,000, 20,000. Yet Ali ibn Abi Talib says, at the end of the day, I have to show some respect. This is the wife of the Prophet. Everyone is seeing off Aisha in these final moments. Aisha gets in another camel, another carriage, and she starts to move. And Ali ibn Abi Talib appoints 40 individuals who are masked to accompany her from Basra to Medina. Shaykh Mufid, in his book Al-Jamal, he narrates this. He says Aisha continued on this path from Basra all the way till Medina. On the way, she was constantly complaining about Ali. Ya Ali, you're the one who killed everyone that I loved. Ya Ali, you are the one who did this. Ya Ali, you're the one who did that. Ya Ali, you couldn't even show some respect to the family of the Prophet. You sent her with 40 non-mahram men. Until this caravan came to Medina. When they came to Medina, they removed the masks from the face. Then Aisha saw these were 40 women that Ali had sent, except that their appearance was set up in such a way that this caravan would remain safe. Because if people knew that this is 40 women, they might have wanted to bother them, yes? He had made sure that they are masked so that when they come throughout this trip and this journey, nobody thinks even to attack this caravan. Then at that point, Aisha apologizes. But what apology at this point? And this is the Ali who does right by everyone, and no one does right by Ali, huh? And let us take our hearts, inshallah. Inshallah, afterwards. Let us take our hearts, inshallah, to the city of Kufa. If we can please dim the lights, inshallah, we will prepare to hear the masa'ib of our beloved Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. These difficult moments, these final days and these final nights that Ali ibn Abi Talib is going through. They say in history that during these final days and nights, Ali ibn Abi Talib, he has been struck with the poisonous sword of Ibn Muljam. Many of these orphans in the city of Kufa, who used to wait for Ali to come and bring them milk and bring them bread at the end of the night, many of them are still waiting during these days and nights. But slowly, they're starting to realize who was this man who used to bring this milk, who used to bring this bread at the end of the day, who used to put the bread and the milk at the door, and then he used to walk away without telling them who he is. Now they see the only person who is wounded in Kufa is Ali, and this bread and milk is not coming either. They know who this man is now. The man who used to come and he used to say, pray for Ali, ask for the forgiveness of Ali, O orphans. If you ask for the forgiveness of Ali, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive him. These orphans are waiting, but there is no bread, there is no milk during these days and nights. They say during these final days and nights, the body of Ali is becoming very frail. It's becoming very weak. It was so frail, it was so weak that Kulthum, when she sees Ibn Muljam, she turns to Ibn Muljam. She says, Ibn Muljam, how dare you kill Amirul Mu'mineen? How dare you kill the Khalifa of the Muslimin? And Ibn Muljam wanted to add even more pain to her. Ibn Muljam said, I didn't kill Amirul Mu'mineen. I only killed your father. Your father wasn't ever Amirul Mu'mineen. Your father was never in charge. I just killed your father. Then history says Kulthum turned to Ibn Muljam and she said, Ibn Muljam, I hope that my father walks away from this wound while he is still alive. I hope that these aren't the final days of the life of my father. To which Ibn Muljam responds, Ibn Muljam said, Kulthum, what do you think I did? This sword that I had prepared, I had left it in the poison for a full month. The way I struck your father, there's no coming back from this striking that I've done. The way your father's skull has been cracked open, there is no more coming back from this. And he was trying to put pain in the hearts of Kulthum. And imagine what went through the heart of Kulthum in this moment. Imagine what went through the hearts of Zainab in this moment, what went through the hearts of Hassan and Hussain when they hear that there's no more hope left. They say in these moments, they ask for a tabib to come, a doctor to come. This doctor came, he started to look at this wound. So much blood Ali ibn Abi Talib has lost at this point. He looked at this wound so much for so long, he was quiet for so long. At one point, he turned to Ali ibn Abi Talib, he said, Ya Ali, he said this one line, he said, Ya Ali, ahid ahdak, come and do your final wasiyah. Come and do your final will, because there's no more coming back from this, Ali. This wound is too deep. This wound is too serious for you to be able to come back from this wound. They say during these days and nights, Ali is so weak. He is in the house. He almost cannot move. It kind of reminds you of those days where Fatima was wounded. She could not walk in the house either. She could not take care of her own affairs either in these days and nights. At one point they say, companion of Ali, they gather outside of the house of Ali. Many of them say, we have to see our Imam one more time before he leaves this world. We have to see our Imam one more time. In those moments, they say Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba came out to the door. He said, please go. My father is in so much pain. He has lost so much blood. His situation is so dire. He can't see any of you in these moments. Please go away from our door. So many of the companions left. Asbagh ibn Nubata says, I stayed there. I said, I have to see my Imam one more time. I won't be able to live if I don't see my Imam one more time. He waited there. He says, I continued to cry at the door of Ali until Hassan heard my sound again. He came back out again. He said, Asbagh, I told you, my father is in such a difficult moment, such a dire situation. Asbagh, go. My father can't see you in these moments. He said, Ya Hassan, I have to see my Imam one more time. Until finally Asbagh gains permission to enter into the house of Ali. Then when he comes in, the description that Asbagh gave of the body of Ali, if you didn't know that this was Fatih Khaybar, you would have thought this is the weakest of human beings to ever live. Asbagh says, when I came into the house of Ali, I saw that Ali could not even sit up anymore. He was leaning on a pillow behind him. There was a cloth around his head that had turned red by how much blood it had gathered within itself. He says, I looked upon Ali and he was so pale in these final moments. He had lost so much blood. He was so frail in these moments. He says, I came, I sat, I kissed the hand of Ali and I cried on the body of Ali. And then he turned to me, he said, Asbagh, la tabki, don't worry, don't cry. Innaha al-Jannah. Soon after this, I will enter into heaven. These are the final days of my difficulty. Ya Ali, we know that you are going through these final days. We know that you have someone to come and sit beside you, Ya Ali. But on the 10th of Muharram, there was a grandchild of yours who was dying in the battlefield of Karbala. No one could come and sit by the body of this young grandchild of yours. Whose grandchild is this? Which grandchild of Ali is this? This is not but Qasim ibn al-Hasan. When Qasim went to the battlefield, Hussain was watching this from far away. He could see that his little warrior of his is going to the battlefield. This little Qasim that they can barely find armor for is going to the battlefield. At one point, one of the armies on the other side said, we're gonna put the pain of losing this child in the heart of his mother. We're gonna get rid of Qasim once and for all. And he came and he struck Qasim on the head. And some narrations say Qasim fell with his face on the ground. And in those moments he called out, he said, Ya Ammah, my uncle, come and help me in these last moments. They say Hussain came out running towards the battlefield. Hussain ran towards the body of Qasim. The narration says in those final moments, Qasim's body was in so much pain that his feet was dragging into the dirt of Karbala. He was pushing his feet into the dirt of the sand of Karbala, and his uncle sat beside his body. He said, my dear Qasim, it's so difficult for me to hear you calling my name, but I can't do anything for you. You're calling me from the battlefield, but I can't do anything for you. Your uncle is so far away. They say Qasim, he took his last breath in these moments. Then the narrator says, I saw Hussain carry the body of Qasim and his feet were dragging on the sands of Karbala. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He places us amongst the true followers of the Ahlul Bayt, inshaAllah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that all of our brothers and sisters who are sick and ill, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants them health and afiyah, inshaAllah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that all of those who are going through difficulty in their personal lives, in their careers, any type of difficulty, all of those who have asked for their hajat, all of those who have said iltimas dua to us during these nights, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant all of them their requests and their hajats, inshaAllah. Let's take a moment to recite Surah Al-Fatiha for all of our marhumeen and marhumat, especially the marhumeen and marhumat of the sponsors of tonight's program, Dr. Naureen Agha and Dr. Aamer Agha, in loving memory of Syed Farhat Imtiaz, Dr. Kamran and Maryam Rizvi, in loving memory of Syed Farhat Imtiaz, Sister Abida Imtiaz, in loving memory of Syed Farhat Imtiaz, Dr. Ibraheem Abbas and Sister Farheen Raza, in loving memory of Ali Abbas family and Raza family Marhumeen, Brother Izhar and Sister Maliha Abdi and family, in loving memory of Abdi and Jafri family and Marhumeen, Sister Naseem Razvi and family, Brother Nadir and Shermeen and family, in loving memory of Jafferali Hemani, Sister Farheen and Brother Juzar Hasta and family, in loving memory of Shireen Rehana, Brother Qasim and Sister Sajween Syed and family, in loving memory of Yasmin Merchant, and Brother Hussain Abbas Rizvi, in loving memory of Ala Jafar Rizvi. With a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا رب العالمين. يا حسين.
Hay Ali, Ya Ali, 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 Hay Ali, Ya Ali. یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا شاہ خیبر گیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا شاہ خیبر گیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا۔ آج بابا مر گیا ہے شبر و شبیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا شاہ خیبر گیر، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا۔ فاطمہ زہرا کے مرقد سے صدا آنے لگی، فاطمہ زہرا کے مرقد سے صدا آنے لگی، ہے صدا آنے لگی۔ یہ مصائب رہ گیا تھا میری تقدیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا شاہ خیبر گیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا خیر، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا۔ کیوں چلائی تیغ حیدر پر بن ملجم بتا، کیوں چلائی تیغ حیدر پر بن ملجم بتا، پر بن ملجم بتا، قتل قرآن کر دیا کاٹا گلا تفسیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، شاہ خیبر گیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، غم علی کی بیٹیوں کے پھر سے تازہ ہو گئے، غم علی کی بیٹیوں کے پھر سے تازہ ہو گئے، پھر سے تازہ ہو گئے، غم ابھی بھولی کہاں تھی مادر دلگیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، شاہ خیبر گیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، نظم جانے علی کو کیا خیال آتا رہا، نظم جانے علی کو کیا خیال آتا رہا، ہے خیال آتا رہا، منہ کبھی زینب کا دیکھا اور کبھی شبیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، شاہ خیبر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، باپ کی میت سے زینب کا لپٹنا بار بار، باپ کے میت سے زینب کا لپٹنا بار بار، ہے لپٹنا بار بار، دل ہلا دیتا ہے رونا شاہ کے ہمشیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، شاہ خیبر گیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، آج بابا مر گیا ہے شبر و شبیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یا علی مولا، 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 اللہم صلی علی محمد و علی
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء يا سيدة النساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم، السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، السلام عليك يا قمر بني هاشم يا أبو الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا أم المصائب يا زينب بنت أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليكم يا شهداء كربلاء جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، يا علي بن موسى رضا راضي بالقدر والقضاء. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. يا سيدي أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وزهورك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.